Forget the movies. Forget the talking parrots and the funny songs. The real history of piracy was written in blood. These men and women were not just looking for buried treasure. They were the terrorists of their time. They paralyzed trade routes, brought empires to their knees, and built floating kingdoms ruled by violence. From the freezing waters of the Atlantic to the burning coasts of China, they took what they wanted and gave nothing back. Today, we are diving into the archives to rank the top 10 most notorious pirates in history. We will look at their crimes, their treasures, and their brutal ends. And the pirate at number 1. Their power was so great that entire nations had to surrender to them. If you are ready, let's set sail. We begin at number 10 with a master of disguise. She is Mary Read. Her life was a lie from the very beginning. Born in England, her mother dressed her as a boy to steal an inheritance. Mary spent her youth living as Mark Read, even joining the British military and fighting in wars as a man. But peace was boring for her. She eventually found her way to the Caribbean and joined the crew of Calico Jack Rackham. She was not just a passenger. Records from her trial reveal a shocking truth. In battle, she was more dangerous than any man on the ship. There is a famous story that when pirate hunters cornered their ship, the male crew members were too drunk to fight and hid in the cargo hold. But Mary Read stood on the deck, pistol in hand, screaming at the cowards to come up and fight like men. Before hoisting the black flag, she actually served as a soldier in the War of the Spanish Succession, gaining such elite combat skills that she once challenged and killed a fellow pirate in a duel just to save her lover's life. She died in prison at age 36, taking her secrets to the grave. At number 9 is Mary Read's partner in crime, the fiery Irish rebel Anne Bonny. She was born the daughter of a wealthy lawyer. She could have lived a life of luxury and silk dresses, but Anne had a violent temper and a hunger for freedom. She ran away to Nassau, to the Pirate Republic, and fell in love with the pirate captain Calico Jack. But she was no simple pirate's wife. She divorced her husband, married the sea, and became a terror in the Caribbean. Witnesses said she fought with a machete and pistol, and she never showed mercy. Her legacy is defined by her final words. When her lover, Calico Jack, was captured and sentenced to hang, he asked to see her one last time. Anne looked him in the eye and delivered one of the coldest lines in history. "I am sorry to see you here. But if you had fought like a man, you would not have to be hanged like a dog." Anne herself had been captured and sentenced to death. She stood trial and faced the gallows, but she played her final card by pleading for the life of her unborn child. However, because she was pregnant, she escaped the noose. But after that day, she vanished from history. Did she die? Did she escape? No one knows. Number 8 is perhaps the most tragic figure on this list, Captain William Kidd. Ask yourself, was he a villain or was he a victim? Kidd started as a respected pirate hunter, hired by the British government to protect trade ships. But in the Indian Ocean, his luck ran out. His crew threatened mutiny, forcing him to turn to piracy to survive. He made one fatal mistake. He captured a ship called the Quedagh Merchant. He didn't know the ship was protected by powerful English lords. Overnight, Kidd went from a hero to a wanted criminal. He sailed to New York, bearing his treasure on an island, hoping to buy his freedom. Instead, he was betrayed. His frantic attempt to hide his loot on Gardiner's Island is actually what birthed the entire legend of buried pirate treasure, directly inspiring stories like Treasure Island though the vast majority of his gold remains missing to this day. His execution in 71 was brutal. The rope broke twice before he finally died. His body was dipped in tar, put inside a metal cage, and hung over the River Thames for 3 years. It was a gruesome warning to any sailor who dared to cross the line. At number 7, we have the Prince of Pirates, Black Sam Bellamy. His career lasted only 1 year, but in that short time, he became the richest pirate to ever live. Bellamy was different. He called himself the Robin Hood of the sea. He despised the wealthy government and treated his crew with equality. On his ship, even the lowest sailor had a vote. He captured the Whydah Galley, a massive slave ship, and turned it into a fortress of freedom. It was filled with ivory, gold, and silver, a fortune worth roughly $120 million today. But the ocean does not care about your wealth. In April 1717, a violent nor'easter struck his fleet off the coast of Cape Cod. The ocean turned into a wall of black water, smashing the mighty Whydah Galley onto the dangerous sandbars. With a deafening crack, the massive ship was torn apart by the waves. Bellamy and over 140 men drowned in the freezing darkness, ironically dragged to the bottom by the heavy weight of their own stolen gold. For more than 2 centuries, the wreck remained lost under the sands, becoming nothing more than a ghost story. But in 1984, underwater explorer Barry Clifford finally discovered the site. He pulled up the ship's bell, proving once and for all that the legend and the treasure were absolutely real. Number 6 is the man who pulled off the impossible crime. His name was Henry Every, who is known as the King of Pirates. Most pirates die in battle or on the gallows, but Henry is the rare exception. He got away with it. In 1695, he targeted the Ganges Sawai, the treasure ship of the Grand Mughal of India. It was a suicide mission. The enemy ship was huge, armed with 40 cannons and 400 riflemen. But Every fought like a demon. He captured the ship and took a fortune in diamonds and gold. This single act caused a diplomatic crisis between India and England. The first ever global manhunt was launched. The attack was so scandalous, not just because of the gold, but because the ship was carrying Muslim pilgrims returning from Mecca, which forced the Great Mughal to threaten to expel all English traders from India in retaliation. Every sailor in the world was looking for him, but Henry, he vanished. Some say he changed his name and lived as a rich man in Ireland. Others say he died poor, but the authorities never caught him. He remains the ultimate ghost of the seas. Breaking into the top 5 is Bartholomew Roberts, known as Black Bart. He was not your typical drunk pirate. He drank only tea. He forbade gambling on his ships. He was a religious man who made his musicians play hymns on Sundays. But don't let this fool you. He was a cold-blooded machine. Roberts relied on efficiency. In just 4 years, he captured over 400 ships, a record that no other pirate ever came close to. He paralyzed trade from Brazil to Newfoundland to Africa. He created the famous Pirate Code, a strict set of laws that every crew member had to sign. His death marked the end of an era. In 1722, he was killed by grape shot in a battle against the British Navy. His crew, following his final order, threw his body into the sea immediately, so he could never be taken as a trophy. With his death, the golden age of piracy effectively ended. At number 4, the face of piracy itself, Edward Teach, better known as Blackbeard. He understood something very important. Fear is the best weapon. Before a battle, Blackbeard would weave hemp fuses into his long black beard and light them on fire. He would step out of the smoke, his face surrounded by fire and sparks, looking like a demon from hell. Most crews surrendered without firing a single shot, simply because they were too terrified to fight him. His most audacious act: he didn't just rob ships, he held an entire city hostage. In 1718, he blockaded Charleston, South Carolina. He stopped all ships from entering or leaving. And his ransom demand was strange. He didn't ask for gold. He demanded a chest of medicine for his crew. He died as violently as he lived. In a final showdown with the Royal Navy, it took 5 gunshots and 20 sword cuts to finally bring the giant down. Legend says his headless body swam around the ship 3 times before sinking. Number 3 proves that the difference between a pirate and a hero depends on which side of the border you are on. Sir Francis Drake. To the English, he was a noble knight, but to the Spanish, he was a monster. They called him El Drac, the dragon. But this was no vacation. It was a raiding party. He sacked Spanish ports in South America and captured treasure ships in the Pacific. Despite his ruthless reputation, he was surprisingly polite during raids, often inviting captured Spanish captains to dine with him on fine gold plates before politely stealing everything they owned and sending them away empty-handed. When he returned to London, the treasure he brought back was so massive that the Queen's share alone paid off England's entire national debt. He proves that if you steal enough money, and if you steal it for the government, you don't get hanged. You get knighted. At number 2, we move away from the Caribbean to the Mediterranean Sea. Here, we find a man who was not just a pirate, but a ruler, Hayreddin Barbarossa. Known as Redbeard, he and his brother Ulrush started as pirates attacking Christian vessels, but Barbarossa had a vision. He didn't just want gold, he wanted power. He allied himself with the Ottoman Empire, and Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent made him the Grand Admiral of the Ottoman Navy. This was unprecedented. A pirate becoming a supreme commander. His tactical genius was unmatched. At the Battle of Preveza in 1538, he faced a massive Holy League fleet assembled by the Pope, Spain, and Venice. Despite being outnumbered, Barbarossa destroyed them. He wasn't just a destroyer. He used his massive fleet to conduct a humanitarian rescue operation, saving thousands of persecuted Muslims and Jews fleeing the Spanish Inquisition and transporting them safely to North Africa. For decades, he turned the Mediterranean into an Ottoman lake. He is one of the few men on this list who didn't die in battle or in prison. He died in his palace, leaving behind a legacy that changed the map of the world. And finally, at number 1, forget Blackbeard, forget Drake. The most successful, powerful, and disciplined pirate in human history was a woman. She was Qing Shi. In the early 19th century, she rose from working in a brothel to commanding the Red Flag Fleet in the South China Sea. Her power was terrifying. While Blackbeard commanded 4 ships, Qing Shi commanded 1/800 ships. While other captains had a few hundred men, she ruled over an army of 80,000 pirates. She was a military genius. She established a brutal code of laws. If you disobeyed an order, you were beheaded. If you stole from the common fund, you were executed. The Chinese government tried to stop her. They failed. The British Navy tried. They failed. The Portuguese Navy tried. They failed. She was undefeated. Realizing they could not beat her, the government offered her a truce. She did the impossible. She negotiated a retirement. She controlled the coastal economy so effectively that even official government salt merchants had to pay her a protection tax just to enter their own ports, effectively making her the unofficial ruler of the entire Guangdong province. She kept her loot. Her pirates were given jobs in the military, and she opened a gambling house where she lived peacefully until the age of 69. She is the only pirate in history who challenged the world and won. Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please like this video and subscribe. We have many more dark histories to uncover. Thanks for watching.